Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosky here again with another beer review for you as is usual. So for this one we're going to go back to Brewdog in Ellon in Aberdeenshire and we're going to review the final of the IPA Is Dead 2013 range. So out of the four beers, the final one that we're going to have a little look at is Dana. And Dana is a Slovenian hop that's it was a crossbreed between some Slovenian varieties and the German Hallertau Magnum. So it's quite an interesting hop that we'll see in this single IPA. The other ones I've reviewed for you already from this series were the Waimea, the Goldings and the Eldorado, so check those out if you are interested. The link to them is in the video description below. Very interesting beers, and as I've said in the last videos, it allows you to get an idea of what each of these individual hops taste like. So as is usual then with my beer review, we'll go through a very brief history of Brewdog before we start on the tasting, and as always, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of the beer, feel free to go on just a few minutes into the video and you will catch that particular segment. And the brewery website is in the video description for you below as well. But this brewery was founded about 7 years ago in 2007 by James Watt and Martin Dickey, and their first brewery was at a little facility in the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland. But more recently in 2012 they moved to their new purpose-built facility in Ellon in Aberdeenshire, which is actually 20 miles to the north of the city of Aberdeen, the oil capital of Europe. But what's really cool about this brewery is that they're a very experimental brewery. They do a whole host of different beers, and any style of beer that you can think of, pretty much they will have done it at some point during their history. In fact, the only real downside to this brewery is that they brew so much great beer that there's some of it you will only see once, and it's a real shame because some of the things they brew are really beautiful. But it's a brewery largely inspired by the American craft beer renaissance that's going on over there, and they cite that in quite a lot of their work actually. But the brewery these days are very cool because they do listen to their fans, and they've got a hell of a lot of different brew pubs. The first of these opened back in 2010 in Aberdeen, and since then they've expanded further in Scotland, quite a lot in England, and there's also new sites opening up in Japan, Italy, Brazil, and they're looking at Belgium, France, Spain, and a few other places like America, Canada and Australia and things like that now as well. So keep an eye out for the Brewdog beer bars near you in the future. And what's also cool about this brewery is that you do find you really like them, you can actually buy into the brewery in the Equity for Punk scheme, which is where you essentially buy shares of the brewery and they use it to fund things. Like they used that to fund their move to the new facility in Ellon, which was a really very modern purpose-built facility, and they're using some of that money now to actually build a visitor centre where you can go and visit their brewery as well. So a very cool brewery indeed, and really interesting one to talk about. These guys are pretty much the flag carriers of Scottish craft beer these days. Some of the older breweries did help make a lot of breakthroughs through there, but this is probably, these days, is probably the most well-known brewery from Scotland, Brewdog Brewery from Ellon in Aberdeenshire. So anyway, that's a sort of very brief history of the Brewdog Brewery for you there. I'll just tell you a little bit about the actual hop that goes into this guy. As I mentioned to you earlier, Dana comes from Slovenia, and it's a sort of crossbreed between the German Hallertau Magnum hop and also some of the native Slovenian hop varieties as well. And apparently this hop will give you a really nice aromatic, spicy, floral character in the beer, along with a lot of citric flavours and kind of pine needles as well. So it should be quite an interesting single hop IPA to try for you there. As I've mentioned, each of these IPAs are actually brewed to be 75% IPU. They're all 6.7% ABV, and they all contain a malt base of Maris Otter, crystal malt and caramel. So these are very nice ones here. So I'll just bring up the camera as I always do and let you have a little look at the artwork on this bottle. It's the same as the other ones, as I've mentioned before. Unusual in the art, the sort of abnormality in the artwork with this one is that the crest is in the middle rather than being over to the side over here as it is on the other Brewdog bottles. But the standard sort of splashed paint Brewdog artwork, very nice. I'll just read out the blurb to you as I've always done with these beers before. It says that Brewdog were insanely passionate about hats, rock and roll, penguins, avoiding ghosts and hops. We bloody love hops, and they are a very hop forward brewery, I'll point out to you. But we felt it was time that hops went solo and got their own primetime show. IPA Is Dead showcases 4 killer hop varieties from 4 different continents. The result is 4 radically different single hop IPAs, and I found that as well with this series. They are quite different. But each IPA contains the same malt backbone and is brewed to be 75 IBU, and is enthusiastically kettle hopped and dry hopped with Waimea, Eldorado, Dana and East Kent Goldings hops. To appreciate the true character, flavour, power and aroma of our favourite hops, you need them in their purest undiluted form. Can you say you ever experienced 100% pure hop awesomeness? IPA is Dead is brewed and bottled to do just that. So very, very cool little blurb on here. They always have little crazy things on their beer, so if you aren't just only hearing about Brewdog beer now, always read the blurbs that are on these bottles. They're actually quite funny, in fact, so just take a little time to read about them. And of course there is the standard Brewdog cap on this one, the white with the blue shield. They've got a few different ones of these, so just if you collect them like I do, just notice that there's a few different ones of these. So let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. As I mentioned to you, a 6.7% single hop IPA, this time with the Dana hop from Slovenia. So let's get this out and get into the tasting here. Not much in the way of aroma coming off this one as I pour it. Just sugar it up and get the last little bit out. Quite a bit of kind of foam and stuff building up in the top of the bottle here. So let's just sit this guy back down. So as you can see then, it's a very nice, if I hold this up to the light, it's quite an opaque, I'll just bring the light up so you can see this a little bit better. It's a nice sort of opaque, kind of bright orange amber there. There was just about 3/4 of a finger of a white frothy head there. A very, very nice looking beer, in fact. So let's just give it a sugar and see how we can get on, and see how we get on with this actually. You can smell a little bit of these pine needles and sort of floral character to this. It's got quite a bit of, it's always got a little bit of a kind of vegetable character to it. But there's some piney resins in there, definitely. A good bit of kind of citric fruit in there, but there is definitely some sort of herbal character to this hop. A kind of herbal and floral aromatic character to it, definitely. It's almost like it has a little bit of a kind of hop dusty-ish aroma, if that makes sense. But you're picking up the sweet caramel in the background there too, and some bread. There's definitely a yeasty bready character to it in the background when you sort of sniff it in a little bit more deeply. But it does, there's definitely, you're getting the nice sort of citric and pine needle aromas in there. Some sort of kind of dusty hoppy aroma that is you're getting too. But there's definitely some sort of kind of vegetable or herbal character in there, definitely. You can smell that a little bit. You can definitely pick that up when you're sort of on the sharper end of the nose, if you like. But let's give it a taste and see how we get on here. As I said, 6.7% single hop IPA with Dana hops from Slovenia. It's quite an interesting one. I like. First thing I'm picking up is that there's a little bit of earthy character, and in the aftertaste I am getting some sort of kind of herbally character, like I was mentioning to you, is coming out in the aroma. The caramel in this one, that's the other thing I'm noticing, the caramel flavour is actually quite pronounced. The hoppiness of this one, it's not got quite the bitter bite that some of the other ones in this series did. But there's a nice underlying of this kind of piney resin flavour in there. It's actually more, there's a little bit of citrus in there, but it's more of a kind of darkish grapefruit flavour that's coming out with this guy. But there is, like I was saying, there definitely is some sort of herbal or vegetable character to this beer. You're getting it just right in the middle of the tongue. So yeah, as we go through the beer on the front of the tongue, you're just getting that nice little bit of kind of dark kind of grapefruit flavour and the pine resins in there. Then as you move towards the back of the tongue, that's when you're starting to get a little bit of the kind of earthy and sort of herbal character that's coming out on there. And the caramel is quite pronounced, but it's quite well blended in the flavour, if you like. There's not a specific part of the tongue where you're kind of picking this up, I would say. Yeah, the caramel, I think, perhaps it's coming out right in the middle of the tongue as you go further back, but it is, the caramel character is really well blended in with that sort of vegetable and herbal flavour that you're getting in this beer. I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it is, but you'll see what I mean if you try this beer. But it's quite an interesting one, actually. This is probably a hop that would go very well in some of the sort of English pale ales where you do want a bit of that floral aromatic character, because you are picking that up around the edge of the tongue. There is a nice little bit of this kind of floral aromatic-y citrus character, something that's actually quite common in the German Helles, and if this hop is a sort of derivative of the Hallertau Magnum, you can kind of pick a little bit some character of the German Helles beers up in this IPA. Pardon me, sorry. But yeah, it's a really interesting one, this, because again, it's quite a unique IPA, and as I mentioned to you, I think it was with the Goldings one from this series. This, like I say, this series is very interesting because it really allows you to see the individual character of these hops. And this one is another really quite unique IPA in that sense. You're really getting a taste of exactly what this hop has, and this kind of vegetable character, the sort of herbal character of the hop, is really quite interesting, and it is quite nice with the little floral aromatic character just coming around the edge of the tongue too. Like I'm saying, it reminds me a little bit of some of these German Helles beers that you get, particularly the ones you get in the small sort of brew pubs over in Germany. It's very, very nice. But in terms of the mouthfeel with this one, it's mid-bodied. The carbonation does have a little prickle to it, but otherwise very, very smooth. This one, I think, is a little bit more oily than the other ones in this series, but it's got a little bit, you're picking up a little bit of the alcohol warmth there, but it's not when it's in the mouth, it's more coming out down here when you're taking it in. But there's a good bit of, just a little bit of bitterness to this one actually. It's not too bitter in that sense, it's not quite as hop forward, if you like, as the other hops. It doesn't quite have that bittering character to it. But it's a very, very interesting flavoured IPA, so, you know, if you do get the chance, definitely give this guy a try. As I say, I'm repeating myself here, but as I say, it's very interesting to sort of learn the individual characters of these hops. And McKellar actually did a series of 20 single hop IPAs with the same backbone and everything, where they were studying how these hops sort of age over time, and the people were trying the beer after, I think, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks and stuff like that. It was done for a PhD thesis. But this is another very interesting concept from Brewdog, and I think they've done 3 or 4 different series of these now. So if you do get the chance, try any of the IPA Is Dead series. You will enjoy them, and it is very, very interesting, like I say, to really capture the individual character of these hops. But for this beer in particular, as I'm saying, it's very, very unique flavour, so I highly recommend that if you do get the chance to get this one, that you do check it out. I'm not sure how widely available this will be, because this is one of the 2013 beers, so maybe not likely that you'll get it, but any of the IPA Is Dead series that you can still get a hold of, give it a try and see what you think. But anyway, I hope you found my beer review of this one informative. If you are interested in more Brewdog beer reviews, please subscribe to the channel, because there will be more of these to come for you in the future, and I really enjoy doing the Brewdog beers, so subscribe to the channel if you are interested in that. But as always, let me know in the comments section if you have tried this beer yourself. Always interesting to hear other people's thoughts on it. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. The next series of Brewdog beers that I'll be reviewing for you will be the Unleash the Yeast series from 2013, and then after that I'll be reviewing the IPA Is Dead 2014. So keep an eye on my channel for that, and I thank you again for your support over the next little over all my videos that I'm done stuttering away. But I'll catch you soon with another beer review. Cheers.